Holybird Education and Publishing presents Stories of the Boo-Boos. Written by Mabel Lucie Attwell. Read by Tanya Cunningham. Copyright by Holybird Education and Publishing. Book 4. The Boo-Boos at the Seaside. Such joy! Such excitement! Bunty and the Boo-Boos were going to the seaside. Yes, really and truly. Grandpa had said so. They could hardly keep from jumping right up to the ceiling. They felt so happy. "But come, Boos," cried Bunty, in the middle of a wild dance round. "Come, we must pack up, or we shall never be ready." Dear, dear, how busy everyone was, to be sure. Such a fetching and carrying, spades, pails, bats, and nets. Nothing must be forgotten. "What a fuss," grumbled Mops. "Just when I wanted to chase that impudent cat next door." But no one took any notice of him. Everything was packed at last, and the Boo-Boos, with shiny, clean faces, were gathered together with the luggage in the hall when the taxi-man arrived to carry them to the station. He made a noise like the popping of a gun when his eye fell on all those Boo-Boos. "Am I expected to take all you insecties?" he demanded in a fierce way beloved of taximen. "'Cause it can't be done. I never have taken insecties, and I'm not going to start now." Here was a pretty how do you do. The king was very worried. It looked uncommonly as though there would be no seaside for the Boo-Boos after all. They were all greatly relieved when Bunty came down the stairs. "Say, Missy," went on the taxi-man, "these grasshoppers can't come along." Bunty had on her sweetest smile. "But, taxi-man dear," she cooed, "they are not grasshoppers. They are Boo-Boos. And see, this is the king. See his crown. You will take them, won't you?" "Well, since you put it that way, Missy, I suppose I must." It would take too long to describe all the wonders that were seen as they rushed through the country in the train. Mops, in his desire to chase chickens, nearly fell out of the window when they were passing a farm, and the king, I hear, almost lost his crown when he would put his head out of the window. But they all safely arrived, and at once rushed straight down to the sea. "Dear, dear sea, we have come, we have come," cried Bunty, waving her hand. "We have come, we have come," echoed the Boos in glee. Mops crept afar off up the beach. "Only a horrid great bath, after all," he said. "Now, I suppose they'll want to bathe me. Ugh!" How lovely everything was. Bunty had promised to build the king a big castle all for himself. "Kings always do have castles, you know, dear," she said. So, on the very first morning, she set to work. All the Boo-Boos helped her eagerly. They loved their little king. Some brought shells, some brought pretty weeds, and the castle soon grew tall and stately. But Mops, bad dog, had let an ugly little thought creep into his head. "Why," he said to himself, "why does Bunty build a castle for the king and not for me? Everything is for the king. Nobody loves me or builds me things. Horrid, I call it." The castle was finished, and the king was led to it by his lovely subject, Bunty. He stood bravely on the very top, and every inch a king he looked. Bunty made him the sweetest of curtsies. "Hail to you, O king!" she cried, and all the Boos cheered and cheered. Then, joining hands, they danced round and round the castle till they were all too tired to dance any more. You can imagine how the king loved them all. But Mops had crept away. As we all know well, if you once let an ugly thought get the better of you, others are sure to come to keep it company. And so it was with Mops. He could not bear to see the king so happy, and hated him with a big hate. He tried to think how best he could be revenged. Poor Mops. It's all rather sad, really. "I'll find a way," he growled. "I'll find a way." The next morning, the king was up early, and down to the sea he went. A fisherman had just cast his line over a breakwater and had gone off up the beach to breakfast. Now the king had never seen a fishing rod before, so he went close up to look at it. Hardly had he done so than a little voice was heard, coming from a big brown basket just near. "Oh, please," called the voice weakly. "Please do let me out. I can hardly breathe. Oh, hurry, please do." The king hurriedly opened the lid and peeped in. There was a big fish, puffing and panting. "A good thing you have come," said the fish. "It is nearly too late." Then he told the king how he had got caught on the fisherman's line, and begged the king to help him into the sea. The king soon helped the poor creature out of the basket and down to the water, and in 2 shakes of its tail it had swum completely out of sight. How queer! One day Bunty thought she would take them all to a picnic. "We will take a boat," she said, "and row over to the Mermaid's Rock. Only mind, dears, that none of you are left behind, for when the moon rises, the mermaids come up on that rock, and they love little children dearly, so much so that they always persuade any child they find to go down to their home below the sea. And dears, remember this, if any child goes, he never comes back." The Boos all promised to be very careful, and soon they were climbing all over the rock and having a glorious picnic. But the wicked Mops had heard what Bunty said, and, oh, the bad dog, he saw his chance for revenge. Just as it was getting nearly time for their return home, he persuaded the king to explore a little cave in the rock, just big enough for him to creep in, and, I hardly like to tell you. And when the little fellow was safely in, Mops sat down just outside and blocked up the hole, so that the king was a prisoner. "Now," said the wicked, wicked Mops, "there you stop till the boat goes without you, and the moon rises and the mermaids come. They'll persuade you right enough, and you'll never bother me any more." Soon Bunty's voice was heard calling, and at last she had to go without them. "Mops will swim home and bring the king on his back. It will be all right," she said. When the boat had quite disappeared, Mops let the king out. "Now, stay there and wait for the mermaids," he barked, as he plunged into the sea and made for home. Poor little king! He was terribly worried, and it was lonely on that rock, and fast getting dark. He called aloud for Bunty to come to him, but there was no answer. The moon came slowly out of the sea, and hardly had it risen, then swish, swish, the king heard the sound of tails moving gently to and fro in the water. "I'm not afraid," said the king bravely. "I need not go if I don't want to." Presently, the sweetest little voice was heard, singing from somewhere near the bottom of the rock. "Come away down, dear, come away down. Leave the green fields, dear, leave the grey town. The sea hall is cool, dear, and decked with white foam. Oh, come away down, dear, and make it your home." The song came to an end, and a most beautiful little mermaid climbed gently onto the rock and sat next to the king. "You perfect darling," she whispered to him. "You will come, you will. I am a princess, and you, I can see, are a king. I have waited so long for you. But the little king shook his head. Bunty's words rang in his ears, and if a child goes, it never comes back. Dear princess, he replied, I cannot come, for there is a little girl as sweet and fair as you, waiting for me over there. And he told her his sad little tale of trouble. Why, I will help you, King. Bunty must be a dear, as you love her so. And the little mermaid clapped her hands. A large fish came swimming up. Take this king on your back, O friend fish, and carry him safely to Bunty, she said. The king thanked her gratefully and was soon sailing away over the water. What a good thing you saved me this morning, presently said the fish. And on looking down, the king saw it was the creature he had rescued from the fisherman's basket. One good turn deserves another, went on the fish. Hold tight now, here comes a wave. Meanwhile, Bunty was very anxious, and she and the boo-boos sat patiently watching for the wanderer's return. A very wet and bedraggled Mops appeared presently. Why, where is the king? They one and all cried. He has gone with the mermaids, said Mops wickedly. He wouldn't come back. Bunty could not believe it. He'll come back. I know he will, she sobbed. And they all waited and waited, and everything seemed too sad, too terrible, when suddenly a speck appeared on the water. No. Yes, yes, it was the king. Hooray, hooray, hooray. And now we are come to the sweetest part of the whole story. The king did not say one word about the cruel and naughty thing that Mops had done. But the next morning, when a fierce crab hung itself onto Mops's tail and was pinching him cruelly, the king flew to the rescue, beating the creature off. Then Mops's wicked thoughts all flew away, and he crept to the king's feet and begged to be forgiven. And the king forgave him there and then.